Hey, Chicago, what do you say? It's the CHGO Cubs pregame show podcast presented by DraftKings, America's top-rated sportsbook. Download the app. Use the promo code CHGO when you sign up. Luke Stuckmeyer and Just Jared. Is it Just Jared? The jewelry store. What's that commercial?
It can only be Jared.
It can only be Jared.
Yeah.
Jared Willis filling in for our man Cody Del Mendo tonight, and we are going Black Shirt Tuesday. Why? Because Marcus Stroman shut him out. Lights off yesterday. We had a miserable weekend, Jared. There's no way to sugarcoat that. It was miserable. Gary Ross agrees with me. Thank you.
What's up, Gary?
A miserable weekend, swept by the Reds, but to come back and one-hit complete game, the best team in baseball, how much weight do you think that carries going into tonight? Any?
I think it carries some weight for sure.
Yeah.
Because to me, that game yesterday felt like that was a potentially very pivotal spot in the season because, we all kind of know, hey, it's Memorial Day. This is one of the first spots on the calendar where you start to take stock of like, all right, what's this team all about, or how's this season going to go? And given the way things had gone, especially in the month of May and their most recent series against Cincinnati, it was looking pretty rough. And I think had they lost that game, it would have. I think there's just a potential for a snowball effect. But to win it, but also to win it the way that they did, where Stroman, they haven't really, they haven't had that kind of a dominant performance. They've had a lot of good pitching, a lot of good things that have happened. Their offense has put up a lot of runs in some games, but, the Rays were never really in that game. I think I can't remember the last time the Cubs were up 1-0, and I sat there in the press box thinking they're okay. That's the way he was pitching yesterday.
Although if he had come out in the ninth inning for some reason, you feel less protected because the bullpen's been the worst in the league.
Yes, that's a big part of it too, was that he was so clearly able to go all 9 innings. It wasn't a surprise to see him go out there for the ninth. I know his pitch count was up around 93 at that point, so it was sort of like, how long do we let this guy go? But you're right. Had they needed to turn it over to the bullpen in the ninth inning, then I think the mood is gonna shift a little bit, or but he was just he had it the whole night. Or the whole day, I should say. And Ross told us after the game, he was asked if he had anybody warming up in the ninth, and he said no. This was Stroman's game.
Well, I mean, especially because their bullpen has struggled. Why, why not roll the dice there?
Who are you going to give the ball to?
I saw that Nieren's like, season's over, folks, and Doug Van Dorn says, season's not over yet. I agree with what you're saying. Yeah. It could be a pivotal point. Also, the Red Series could be a pivotal point. We'll see how they respond to it tonight. But had they been rolled over by the Rays again, I feel like you could just see another sweep coming. It was just losing to the Reds the way they lost on the way they lost on Saturday.
Yeah,
really tough. And you're right. Just beating the Rays is not the same as a complete game, one-hit shutout.
Yes.
That's different too. For your ace to come out and just throw you on his back and say, all you guys have to do is get one run.
Yeah, that's all.
One run. I'm asking you for one run. And frankly, he's had to do that a couple times this year to where it's been very little support for him. He's the first complete game one-hit shutout for the Cubs since Jake Arrieta in 2014. Before that, you got to go back to John Lieber.
That's going back ways.
I mean, and it's just going to be it's more and more rare the further you go in baseball. And that's what scares me about the bullpen this year, which is also surprising about the bullpen this year, is because they've been able to do it multiple years in a row. While the team hasn't been good, they've been able to piece together these bullpens.
Yeah.
Well, now they're trying to, clearly win, or at least it looks like they're trying to win, and now the bullpen is the thing failing them. And, that's a 30-year game these days, the bullpen, at least. If not half of the game has been the bullpen. And when they're ranked dead last in the league, that explains why at some point your record has been the worst in the National League.
Yeah, because when you look at all the other parts of the team, it really looks like this should be a team that's doing a lot better than what they have so far. They hit pretty well. Starting pitching's been really good. They do struggle a little bit with hitting with runners in scoring position. I was looking up some numbers on that the other day on the number of runners they strand.
They do.
There's a problem there for sure, and that's the kind of thing that's going to catch up to you too. But it's when your bullpen needs to pick up 3, even 4 innings pretty consistently, and they're not good and they're struggling. In the modern game, like you said, it's really, really tough to win.
Yes, Barb, thanks for asking about Cody. He's just off tonight. He's okay. Long weekend,
All's
longer
well, Cody.
weekend. Cody's fine. Jared's here to bring us the knowledge. So when you saw him pitching, what impressed you most? I heard Nico Horner on the score this afternoon just saying, like, even for the players, that was more than just a game. Like, he couldn't remember any hard hit balls. Like, everything was soft. Even the hit that he gave up was soft contact.
Yeah, I think that I saw the exit velocity on that single was like 67 miles an hour. It was one of those just well-placed, it fell in the right spot, that sort of thing. But Tucker Barnhart told us after the game, he said, it was like a video game.
Right,
I think that was the sense that all the players had. Because I asked about this after the game. Usually when a pitcher throws that well, there's some defense that's involved in that too. There's at least a couple of plays where your defense is kind of picking you up. But that really wasn't the case yesterday. You had in the 7th inning when he did give up that single and then he walked the next batter, then Seiya Suzuki deserves some credit for, he catches the fly ball in right field and is able to hold the runner. And then after that, you get the double play. Dansby Swanson turns the double play. But really, other than that, it was Stroman. This wasn't like, diving catch here, somebody, really making a nice play.
A lot of ground balls.
His
bread and butter, ground ball.
Yeah.
What's amazing is that he leads the National League in innings pitched, and he's not a strikeout guy.
No.
He's depending on the defense that they built behind him, which on the infield has been great. And when Bellinger's there, up the middle has been great. Mm-hmm. From catcher to pitcher. I mean, he adds to it because he's so good defensively on the mound as well. But when Bellinger's there, that really adds to it. And he counts on guys to scoop it up and throw it over to first base. And that has worked. By the way, Ramsey's in the live chat says, I'm behind 7 minutes in the live stream, but just know I agree with what Stuck says. 7 minutes from now, whatever it might be.
It's just preemptively agreeing.
That's right. See, and that is obviously the best way to get your name right.
That's a smart move. That's a smart move. But, I think speaking of the ground balls, it was 5 of the first 6 outs were all via ground ball.
Yeah.
I mean, it was pretty clear right from the get-go. It was weak contact to the ground. I don't think he got a strikeout until the 3rd or 4th inning.
It's just not the way baseball is going anymore. Everybody that comes up now, most of them are strikeout. Right? That's what they're looking for, missing bats now. But he shows you, just like Kyle Hendricks, who we'll talk about in a minute, has shown you for many years that you can get it done the other way too.
Yes,
you can be smart. You can get it done the Greg Maddux way by throwing the ball to a place where they're going to hit it to one of your. I mean, I remember his last start, Stroman, it was like we showed the heat map from Brendan Miller, the pitch doctor, and it was like everything was that bottom left corner of the strike zone, but he was just painting it. And it was heavy sinkers, like the most sinkers he'd thrown. Yesterday, the breaking ball was mixed in. He didn't just throw sinkers. It was kind of a combo that was successful.
Yeah, it was. I noticed the first couple innings, it was pretty sinker heavy at first. I think I counted 28 of the first 32 pitches were sinkers, but then you're right, as the game went on, he started introducing some of the other stuff. That's when you started to see, the four-seam fastball, the cutter, the slider. Like he started to bring in some of those other pitches later on, but I think it was once he had established that sinker, then it was now some of this other stuff. But he was locating everything yesterday.
But you're right. It's still always the key for whatever he's doing.
Right.
Like the sinker is everything. Now, a few roster moves going into today. Hayden Wesneski's been called back up to the big leagues. And Michael Rucker has been optioned back down to Iowa.
Hayden Wesneski has been called back up to the coffee table as well.
And Wesneski's back on the coffee table, which is the first step in success for anybody.
Bring him back.
Get back to the coffee table on our set. That's step number one. Cody Hoyer pitching for Iowa tonight. Bellinger doing cage work and throwing. Boxberger's going to throw again tomorrow. The one that interests me is Wesneski. How will they use him? Is he definitely coming back as a starter? Is he coming back as a reliever? Because you know that when Keegan Thompson left,
right,
that longer role sort of still kind of lingering out there. And I guess you could give it to anybody, but that role could be also Wesneski. I haven't heard anybody say this is what he's doing when he gets here.
From what I understand is he's going to be in the bullpen.
In the bullpen.
At least to start out, from what I saw, their vision for him still is for him to be a starter.
Sure.
But for now, and I think some of that does have to do with the fact that their bullpen is struggling and needs help. And like you said, Keegan Thompson's still in AAA because it looks like –
and struggling there.
Not doing well. So you need a longer relief guy. So Wesneski's probably your guy for that spot.
Yeah.
And maybe this helps boost that bullpen a little bit because one of the things that Ross talked about over the weekend was for some of these guys still feeling like he's trying to find the right spots to use them. And some of that comes from I'm a big believer in like having the established closer, your established setup man, because then you can kind of build backward from there. And he just doesn't have that. So it's a lot of like plug and play, and sometimes it just doesn't work.
Right. Be interesting if you could envision a bullpen a couple weeks from now. Could it be Wesneski, Cody Hoyer, Estrada? You could start to see some different names in different places than they were when the season started. And that's what they have to do because they still have a long way to dig out. Now, if they weren't in this division, we wouldn't be talking about most of it.
Yeah, I mean,
we'd already know the outcome. But they are in that division, so you play the cards that you're dealt.
Right. This is you're not out of it. You're not even like that far behind. You know, if you think about where they are in the division, I think it's 5 games. I mean, that's
Let me look.
A good week. You can make up that ground, right?
Of course, yeah. I mean, a very good week, but yes.
But they've shown earlier this season that they're capable.
Five out to start the day. One behind the Reds.
Put together a good week. Maybe this is that week. But you're right. If not for that, we wouldn't be. The tenor of this whole conversation would be totally different. Because you would be talking with much more certainty about, hey, who's getting traded in July? They're going to be sellers. They might still, but it kind of delays that conversation a little bit.
The Stroman outing, really what he's done in the first half of the season. I've gone back and forth the first 2 months from saying Steele's the ace, Stroman's the ace. Stroman's the ace, Steele's the ace. And I keep telling Cody it's 1A, 1B. After yesterday, Stroman's the ace again. Like he's been that good. And it pains a Cubs fan to look at that and say, man, what if he's not here at the end of the season?
Yeah.
Because I know there were some ups and downs early on when he signed with the team, but he took less years and less money with the Cubs on like, I'll prove it to myself and I'll prove it to everybody else. I'll still get that deal. Now, he still might get that from the Cubs. I'm of the belief if you can get him to sign an extension, that he's the guy you got to keep because I don't think his stuff fades that much as he gets older. Like if it's just extending him for 2 more years, what he's doing, he throws hard enough and plays to the ground ball enough that I think he'd be good for another 2 years beyond that. So I don't see how the Cubs, listen, I know they have to restock the farm system and that not all prospects are going to hit, but in his case, you also just can't let good players go away. Like you need good pitchers.
Right. And this was supposed to be the season that they were kind of turning the corner from, okay, we've done our rebuilding or they never wanted to call it rebuilding.
Yeah.
So we'll pick a different word, but they've done that for the last couple of years. Yeah, it's still rebuilding. But they did that in 2021. They did that last year. So, and their words were, this is supposed to be the season where we're starting to compete. Back in January at the Cubs convention, the Ricketts family sat up on stage in front of everybody and said, this season is an inflection point. So that if you get to July and it's like, all right, we're trading Stroman, we're trading Bellinger, we're trading,
Hendricks.
Yeah.
If
Hendricks,
he's
maybe
pitching well.
That's a really, really tough sell to fans. I honestly, I don't think the appetite and the patience for that sort of thing exists in the fan base the way that it used to, and with good reason, because the standard is different. Now
that said, the difficulty is that you have to fix Tyone because you have that contract. Now that contract, you committed to it. So now that factors into the Stroman decision, and how much money do you want to lock up in a rotation moving forward? I still think he's a guy, if you can get him. Now, if he's going to definitely opt out after the season, he's probably traded. Mm-hmm. That's just the reality of it. If you can get him to sign the extension mid-season, that's the way to go, because if it gets to the trade deadline and you think you're going to lose him for nothing, that's not good business either.
You can't let that happen. That's why I think they've got to probably right now, those internal conversations are what
have to be happening.
They have to be happening because you have to you're right. You have to make that move before the end of July. So you're giving yourself kind of 2 months to make a decision about, are we trading this guy, and then trying to sell that to fans.
Right.
Because you're right. You can't just let him opt out at the end of the year, because then you're empty-handed. You've got nothing. So it's either extend him or trade him. Obviously, I think the fan sentiment is going to be in favor of extending him, and I think I'd be on the same page.
Let's take a look at tonight's lineup. Nico Horner did not bat leadoff yesterday.
Right, yesterday. That was.
And he's back in the leadoff
Miles
spot.
Mastroboni leading off yesterday. It was interesting.
Well, it was a one-day experiment.
Yeah.
As good as the defense was and as Stroman was yesterday, the offense once again fizzled and could manage just that one run of support.
Right.
So tonight, Ross going back to Horner, Swanson, Happ, Suzuki, 1, 2, 3, 4. Mancini at first base, Tauchman in center, Wisdom playing third, Gomes catching, and Christopher Morel, the DH, which is always interesting to see what they do with Morel, but more and more it's DH because the outfield adventures have been just that, adventures. And we've had many conversations, Cody and I, about whether or not he should get more play at third. If Wisdom's not the long-term play at third, and that's one of the few places you think Morel might land, then at what point do you wait till the second half of the season to start sticking him over there at third base more often? But eventually he's got to get – I'd like to see him get more steady play at one position and DH, as opposed to trying to screw him into a hole that is Ben Zobrist that maybe he doesn't fit.
Right.
We hoped he'd fit. But Ben Zobrist was a unique player. That's what made him so good. He was good defensively at all those spots.
That's, like kind of a unicorn-esque.
Yeah.
You don't get that really very much at all. Yesterday, before the game, Morel was taking some grounders at third. He and Mastroboni were both over there. Mm-hmm. So I was down on the field, got to watch him for a while. And even in that setting, he wasn't making every throw to first base. And
that's what they're worried about.
Right.
It's the throw. It's not about picking it at third.
Oh, he had no trouble with
his
that.
His glove's fine. That's why he can play shortstop and second base. But I think the only way to get used to making that throw at third is to consistently play there.
So when you are on the field, just be at third base. Don't try to do everything else. Keep him out of the outfield.
I think it's what would be best for him.
Yeah.
It may not be what's best for the team, so maybe that's why their game plan might be waiting for the second half of the season to try that out. If they're out of it, I think you're going to see a lot of Morel at third base.
Yeah. I think if they continue to to stay at the bottom of the division, then yeah, I can see that second half. He's consistently playing at third. But yeah, like I said, he was even in pregame fielding grounders. He sailed a few of those throws.
Gary Ross says Morel cannot play third base.
Hi, Jake.
I just can't rule him out of any position until I see him get consistent playing time there. Now, I've seen the routes in the outfield, and I know they're not good, and I've seen the throws from third, and I know they're not good. His best two positions are short and second. The problem is the Cubs have players at short and second. So they're going to have to figure something out. I don't know if you just say he's a DH long term or if you can find a spot for him to play. DraftKings is our proud sponsor, and we're so happy to have them. Cody actually put out, although he's not here, he's a dedicated gambler and Cubs fan. And gambler is the first one I said, and it was in the correct order.
Yeah.
He did go ahead and put out his hits parlay. So let me find it here. I took a picture of it. Actually, Joey, I put it in Slack too. Here it is. He's got Seiya Suzuki. He's got a 20% boost on this. He's got Seiya Suzuki to get a hit, okay. Harold Ramirez to get a hit, and Christopher Morel to get a hit. That's his hit parlay. Sure, whatever you want. And I was talking with Big Dave about, beyond the Cubs, just the NBA Finals, and I said, I believe the Denver Nuggets and our friends at DNVR are going to be celebrating an NBA championship. However, if Vegas starts to tell me that everybody's putting their money on the Denver Nuggets and the odds are so great in favor of the Heat.
They are so great.
Already, I know, but I'm saying if it continues to multiply, I am considering throwing just a little bit on the Heat because keep in mind, the Denver Nuggets are a better team than the Heat. You know what? So were the Milwaukee Bucks.
So were the Celtics. I said the same thing on the Bulls show today. I said the same thing on the Bulls show today. Everyone picked Denver in 4, 5, 6. I said, I'm picking the Heat. Everything they said is true. Denver's a better team. It's a major talent deficit, but they've overcome that. They've overcome that multiple times already. And so it just feels wrong to continue to pick and at least to count them out and think it's not going to be a good series.
I could see the Celtics folding the way they folded because the Celtics have some guys that have a few screws loose. They haven't figured it out as
right.
But the Bucks are the Bucks, and I know Giannis got hurt, so I'm not.
I know the Heat have sort of that air about them through these whole playoffs.
Yeah,
but I want our friends at DNVR to be happy. So
it's
Nuggets.
Probably Nuggets in five. It's probably Nuggets in 5, but I would not. I'm just telling you, if the money is so heavy on the Nuggets, I might actually take the Heat because I think they got at least a 25% chance of winning that.
I can see that. Yeah.
All right. So Kyle Hendricks makes his second start tonight. Thanks to everybody in the chat that has joined us here on the live YouTube pregame show. I see Gary's here. The Godfather Collada's here. Jordo's here. Doug's here. Barb's always here. Barb, we are live, and we will be coming on, Barb, yes.
He's not loving the basketball talk.
Barb, live after the game.
Barb was wondering if Jared was going to chug a beer if they won tonight in Cody's absence. We'll see.
I'm going to guess no, but there is always a possibility that Jared, win or lose, will smoke a stogie on the live show.
I most definitely will, yeah. That's happening.
We need to check where the fire... smoke detectors are.
A stogie has been smoked in Studio B and nothing happened. So
we'll have to prop that door over there, maybe. But no, I'll do the beer bet.
Come on,
You'll
Cubs.
do the beer bet?
Yeah, come on, Cubs. Get the job done.
I'm in the Cody chair, so I feel like I gotta do what keep it alive. Cody, this beer bet's for you.
I mean, I wouldn't do the beer bet. Just because of the filth that he hasn't washed out of there alone. But that's a whole other story. Sorry, he claims it's rinsed out with what? I don't know, but he claims it's been rinsed out. So at the very least, if you're going to do it, we would get you a little soapy water.
Yeah, we'll give it a good wash.
Through the old beer bat.
Yeah.
So Kyle Hendricks making his second start since returning. The first one was, it was okay.
Yeah.
It was okay for a guy that hadn't pitched in a game in 11 months.
Yeah.
And had gone through major rehab at an older age. First off, the defense could have been better behind him that first game.
Right.
The defense could have been better. It didn't have to be as bad as it was. So what do you expect out of Hendricks tonight?
Well, this is a tough matchup tonight because, as one of our commenters asked, I saw earlier about Shane McClanahan for the Rays. One of the best pitchers in baseball they're going up against. So the lineup got away with not doing so great yesterday because Stroman was so good. But they've got to really, that's for Hendricks. That's a tough one. But maybe their saving grace might be the fact that the bullpen's well rested because nobody even had to warm up yesterday.
Right.
So that's a good thing. So Ross, in theory, has everybody available. So for Hendricks, I think what I look for is, can he get you twice through the order? Is that 5 innings? Is that 4 1/3? Is that, because he hasn't pitched in 11 months and, before his most recent start. So that's kind of, I don't want to see that pitch count get up more than 75, 80 because it was a shoulder injury that put him out for so long. That's kind of what I've got my eye on, I think, is give me twice through the order. Anything beyond that, to me, just feels like gravy.
I would agree with that. You just want to see him get through about half of the game without a ton of runs. If he can get the ground balls and
5 innings and 3 runs.
You don't want a bunch of home runs, but I feel like he did have, the changeup did work at times. In that first game, it just felt like he went through the order. He got some guys on changeup, and his other pitches weren't working well enough.
Right.
And so they could just sit back and say, well, listen, we know every other pitch is going to be a changeup. Just sit and wait for it.
Yeah.
That's what got him last time.
And that's for any pitcher, anytime the offense can eliminate a pitch, then you're in trouble.
Right.
So that's what you want to be able to see from Hendricks tonight, is that he all of his pitches are working for him. They don't have to be perfect, they don't have to be great, but as long as he's got all of his stuff working for him.
Right.
And again, 5 innings, maybe 3 runs or so, I won't be mad.
All right, here's our Who You Got picks for tonight. A lot of people jumping in on the Who You Got competition. Joey, did you make a Who You Got pick?
Yeah, and we also need Jared's pick.
Jared made a pick. Didn't you send one in on?
I did not, but you know what?
I thought you did. Wait a minute now.
I'm going to go.
It's a full slate.
We got a little bit of
almost everyone's been taken. So
Joey took Mancini. Cody jumped in with Gomes.
I will, if Jared wants to take Mancini, I will split Mancini with Jared.
You know what? I'm happy to. You know what? We talked about Morel.
Nobody's taking Morel.
I mean, Morel.
I went Wisdom
there at the bottom of the order.
Yeah, it's probably a good pick.
It's a hot night at Wrigley. I'm going Morel, and give me Morel.
I'm here offering up splitting Mancini for getting them Morels on the table. Jared's like, no thanks. I'll take Morel.
So who are you taking then, Joey?
Mancini.
You're taking Mancini. Wait a minute. I thought somebody else had Mancini.
No. Cody took Gomes. That would have been my pick.
Cody took Gomes. And by the way, reports out of Iowa that Nick Madrigal hit a home run there. So he's catching up to Mervis and Morel in Iowa.
He's on his way.
He went down there. He's beefed up, and he's already hitting jacks.
All right.
There's the first one.
That
So it's
Des Moines air is good for him. But,
all right. Let's see. Jordo's going with Suzuki. Gary wants someone to take Talkman. It sounds like you just did, Gary. Nobody took Dansby Swanson.
Ooh.
Yeah, see, now I was going to go Dansby, and then I was like, Wisdom had the 2 home runs and then didn't play yesterday. So I kind of like Wisdom to bounce.
Come in there and,
But Dansby's not a bad pick. Ron says he thinks Cody throws a dart at a group of names.
Okay.
Oh, we all do.
Well,
we all do. That's how inconsistent the offense has been. It's like the smart play is probably Nico every game, but like you can't. That's boring.
I know.
So.
And I did see. I don't want to pass over this. I saw there were some questions about what kind of cigar I was having. So tonight it's a Monte Cristo white label.
All right.
It's summer cigar. It's Connecticut wrapper.
Not
too heavy, not too dark. It'll be a good good drive home smoke.
I have no idea what any of that means, but I've heard of a Swisher Sweet before.
Ugh.
Thanks to everybody for checking out the CHGO Cubs pregame show.
You got that at the Sunnyside in Wrigleyville?
Huh?
Oh, that's still under wraps.
No.
Never mind.
Presented by DraftKings, America's top-rated sportsbook. Download the app, use promo code CHGO. When you sign up, Jared and I and Joey, we're all back for the live post-game show. As soon as the final out is over, we'll have Ryan Herrera from beautiful, historic Wrigley Field. Hope you'll join us then. Until then, fly the W.